Life unscripted, stories uncharted. Tales from those on the front line. Journeys that will shift the way you view the world. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily reflect the views of any affiliated organizations or government entities.
Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of Port and Starboard Podcast. Today we have my good friend Eric Metters. Eric, how you doing?
Doing great, B. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you too. So I just found out you're still in the Coast Guard.
I am.
Yeah.
I went over. I finished year 35 on Coast Guard Day back in August, and so I'm in my 36th year. Just finished my 20th year of active duty in there as well.
Man,
But
props to you.
well, the recruiter back in '90 told me that if I joined that day, I got another ribbon. So I get to wear the Bicentennial Unit Commendation for being in the Coast Guard on its 200th birthday. So I got an extra ribbon out of the deal.
That's so cool. That's so cool. All right, so let's touch on your history, where you grew up, what your upbringing was like through high school, college to joining the Coast Guard, whatever that looks like for you.
Okay. Yeah. So I was actually born in New Orleans, but when I was just a couple months old, I went to live with my grandparents. I grew up on a farm outside of Atlanta, out in Snellville, Georgia. And then when I was a little bit older, I went back to live with my parents, and then my parents got divorced when I was rather young, which back at that time was not as prevalent a scenario as you see today. So it was kind of a unique situation back then. And I would spend my school year in Georgia. I lived with my dad, and then I would go to New Orleans in the summers. But I would still spend a lot of time out on the farm with my grandparents. And that was so I kind of lived all around the city of Atlanta, but also with my dad being military when we were younger, I moved around a little bit there as well. So I never went to the same school more than 1 year until I was a freshman a sophomore in high school. So I graduated from Forest Park Senior High. So I was
That's a lot of
kind of
jumping
moving around.
around as a kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And when you're a year younger than most everybody else in your class, and you're the smallest, shortest kid with a smart ass mouth, you and that probably blew the curve on a test. You you learn very quickly where all the sticker bushes are because people are throwing you into them. I personally have been thrown into some of the best sticker bushes all around this country.
Oh my word. Um,
And despite what the after school specials will tell you, you can't really hurt bullies with words.
no, no, you can't. Oh man, how was farm life with the
Oh,
grandparents?
it was, sometimes I even still dream about it. It was that is like my one regret as a parent is that we didn't still have the farm for me to let my kids experience that. I mean, I started driving when I was 5 on the tractor, but in order to reach both the brake and gas and the clutch at the same time, I like had to hop over the thing because I couldn't reach them both with my feet. But working with the cows and with in the garden, and growing up, it was the classic Gen X, be back in before it gets dark.
Yep.
But it was as I would go out to play, during the day, I was also given a list of when you come back in, have this many potatoes, this many green beans, this many ears of corn. And then, yes, the first thing I would do when I'd get back in is I'd shuck the corn or snap the green beans or, clean the potatoes, and just, so as a kid, I never grew up with that, hatred of vegetables thing that so many people did. It was always, right in from the farm. And it was, it was awesome. And they were two awesome people, to
Yeah.
grow up under.
That's amazing. How big was the farm? Was it like acreage?
It was, 28 acres.
It's pretty sizable.
So it was 28, and then at some point it got cut in half. The state of Georgia took eminent domain and put a road through the middle of it, so it
Oh,
got a little bit smaller.
yeah. And then New Orleans, that's such an interesting city.
It is, and it's so much with my family that's from there. My mom's side of the family, just so much culture and music and food and watching them cook has influenced the way I cook so much. And um, I I'm just not a big heat and humidity guy.
Mm,
So it's a great place to be from,
right.
as I say.
Yeah. And now you're still in the South, right?
Yes.
So,
That was one thing that my wife uh talks about is she's like, ever since she met me, I keep moving her further and further away from where she was from. And I guess the apex of that was the 3 years we spent in Cleveland, uh here recently. That was we decided we needed to come back further south.
yeah.
Snow up to my knees for 6 to 8 weeks was not great. And
No.
and believe it or not, the joy and mystery of owning and operating a snowblower wears off within the first 15 minutes.
Sure does. Yeah, it sounds like fun. It sounds like fun until it's not. My
Yeah.
parents are, a lot of my family's from a town called Sunapee in New Hampshire, a remote town, mountains, and their driveway curves up a hill and it curves. So imagine snow blowing that. It's just like, nah, not worth it. Um,
Yeah.
so, so graduated high school. Did you go to college at all?
I did.
Hmm.
I've been to college a few times. Uh,
Yeah.
I so I had a full tuition scholarship. Uh, but as I mentioned earlier, I was younger than most of my classmates, and I did not make the most mature decisions in my first couple of years of college. And college is a lot like a lottery. You must be present to win. And I had a small problem getting up for classes,
Yeah.
in that I didn't. Um, so I lost my scholarship, and I learned that there was not necessarily money saved away in my name.
Hmm.
And so that's actually what ended up driving me to the Coast Guard. Was I I knew I didn't want to be anything in DoD. That wasn't my natural bent. But I
Hmm.
was able to get a guaranteed A school, specialty training school as medical, as a health services technician. Uh, and I joined the Coast Guard. I joined the Coast Guard for 4 years to get my GI Bill, and I
Yeah.
was going to pop out. You can see where that plan got me. Uh, haven't left. So but I ended up getting my undergraduate degree uh, while in, and then afterwards um, I left the active duty the first time and was working out in the civilian world and started teaching. I was a sonographer, so I did ultrasound, and I started teaching ultrasound, and I ended up getting my master's in adult education and distance learning. when I went on to be the program director at the medical university for sonography, I the university said that I could keep my job if I got a postmaster's degree, and I found that motivating. So I got the specialist degree in educational leadership, and specialist degrees in education are like between a master's and a doctorate. And so I
Okay.
got the specialist degree, and they said, "Oh, yeah, when we said postmasters, we actually meant a doctorate." And I'm like, "Okay." So I started on my doctorate in science ed, and I was getting close to finishing that when Deepwater Horizon happened,
Oh wow.
and I ended up being deployed because I was a reservist, drilling reservist at the time. I ended up being deployed for Deepwater Horizon. I came back and I told Shay, my wife, I said, "Hey, we need to have a conversation." She said, "Let me guess, you want to go back active duty?" I said, "I really, really do. I enjoy the people I work with so much, and I just really have a sense of accomplishment that I wasn't getting before."
Right. And your family has a long line of military service. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, as we do. Matter of fact, that was a project my daughter did when she was in middle school, I think, or late elementary school. And we have all the pictures of everybody in our family that's served in the military. And that was, and my dad was Navy and went into the Coast Guard Reserve. He was a recruiter. So when we were at recruiting command, I don't know if you knew or not, but the recruiter's badge I wore was my dad's.
I did not know that. That's super
Yep.
cool.
Yeah. So mine wasn't one of the flimsy ones. Mine was a thick metal uh, recruiting badge.
The
And
real deal. Heck yeah.
yes, and then so that was the funny story that she had graduated from college already. And now to frame this, you have to understand that my son is 6'3", 210, super athlete, three letter athlete, captain on teams. He's also really smart, graduated on the dean's list. And so his older sister comes to me one day and she says, "Hey, Dad, we have a long family history of military service." I'm like, "We do, babe." And I'm thinking, where's she going with this? And she goes, "And you and I both know Anthony can't do it." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm pretty sure he can." Uh, I'm pretty sure that recruiters, every time recruiters saw him, they tried to recruit him off the street.
Yeah.
Uh, so, and that's when she told me she wanted to join the reserve. So, which
It's
I just got to
so cool.
remind you, make sure that when you're talking about the reserve, you don't say reserves. I heard you say reserves in episode 1.
That's right. Reserve, and then yeah,
Reservists.
reservist. I remember that being a a thing up in DC. Oh, that's awesome.
But
Um,
that's my specialty is a reserve component manager. So reserve
yeah,
policy and procedure and making sure we get people ready for deployment and actually deployed when the active duty side needs the additional support.
yeah,
That's my whole specialty. So
yeah. That's a huge specialty. So I was a yeoman um, for 10 years, and then I considered myself kind of a recruiter in DC because I was on the ISTT, the in-service transfer team. However, when I was a yeoman, I always was the Coast Guard Reserve yeoman at my whatever unit I was at. So I got to come in on drill weekends, and at first it was like, oh, in my early 20s, I don't want to come in on drill weekends. But then I looked forward to it because I got to meet people from so many different backgrounds, and um, it really became like a joy to go into work and help out the Coast Guard Reserve from that side on the pay and personnel side. So yeah,
they need more people with that attitude to
yeah,
integrate the two a little bit better.
I agree. Yeah. Um, Cool. So you join the Coast Guard. Where do you go?
Uh,
What's your
so,
first?
so I joined Coast Guard, and like all good enlisted members of the Coast Guard, I go to Cape May, New Jersey for boot camp, do my 8 weeks there, and then I go back to Atlanta. And for about a month and a half, I worked in the recruiting office before packing up my car and driving everything I owned out to Petaluma, California for 6 months of health services school. Um, yeah, we actually PCS to A school as HSs.
Wow.
So, and then from there, I ended up back in Cape May, working at the boot camp dispensary. So medical at the boot camp. I went from there to physician assistant school.
Hmm.
Uh, Left that, and actually that's when I separated off active duty the first time, and went back to Atlanta. Got a job doing X-ray at for family practice. Right, I ended up running the lab and X-ray departments, and they thought it would be great to have an in-house sonographer. They shared part of my tuition. I went to ultrasound school, and from there, I ended up leaving that practice a little bit later, did some hospital work. Then I found a awesome job working at the Children's Hospital in Atlanta at Scottish Rite,
Hmm.
and was loving it there. The only thing I didn't like was Atlanta traffic. Uh, Most of the days it would take me an hour to drive home. And on Friday afternoons, it was a lovely hour and a half to 2 hours.
Mm.
So, but I got used to working with students, and I guess I became, well known for being one of the sonographers that the students always wanted to be assigned to because they felt like I worked with them so well.
Hmm.
And so the program director for the technical college up in Rome, Georgia, showed up for a clinic visit one day, and he said, "Hey, Eric, how would you like to not sit in traffic every day?" I said, "You have my attention. What?" So that's when I started teaching. I was teaching, and I was the clinical coordinator for the program there at the technical college, and did about 4 years there. And that opportunity came open at the university to be the program director, to run the program and do some medical research as well. And that's how I ended up at Medical College of Georgia. And the job ended up being more research than I actually wanted to do. I wanted to teach more and just kind of dip into the research. They wanted me to do more research and get grants and such. That wasn't necessarily where my joy was. That was part of the reason that for my desire to go back active duty. And by then I'd gotten commissioned, and I guess while I was a reservist, I having been a corpsman, it
Yeah.
was natural that my next assignment be essentially in a public affairs unit. So I for about a
Okay.
decade, yeah, for about a decade, I made training films and documentaries and wrote computer-based training programs for the early LMS programs for the Coast Guard. So like I was the first person that took the DC-2, the Damage Controlman Second Class, full paper books and
Uh-huh.
convert them to a digital learning platform.
Oh my
Um,
word. What?
so we made the Welcome to Boot Camp video. I was one of the people that made that. I got
No
to
way.
yes, yes. There's some videos that have been destroyed. Luckily, uh, I did some work in front of the camera, some voiceover work with them, editing, sound. I ran sound mostly. I was the archivist for the unit,
Hmm.
the archivist, and the the biggest thing that we did, we spent 6 years and we made a documentary all about the PLM life saving station out there on the Outer Banks.
Hmm.
If you're not familiar with them, they were the only all African American life saving unit back in the life saving service. They got that way because the PLM was known as the worst unit in the life-saving service. There was accusations that the guys were intentionally running people aground so that they could then salvage what floated in, that they weren't on their watches like they were supposed to be. They were out in the woods hunting. So the life-saving service in DC said, we got to do something about this. This is not acceptable. This is not acceptable practice. They came down. They asked everybody, who's the best surfman? We want to put that guy in charge of P Island. And everybody said, well, it's Richard Etheridge. Richard Etheridge. Richard Etheridge. So they're like, well, I guess we're going to put this Richard Etheridge guy in charge of the P Island station. They put Richard Etheridge in charge, and everybody quit because Etheridge was African American. And he'd been a Buffalo soldier. He had a extensive military background.
Yep.
And so they ended up recruiting other African American surfmen to come work at the P Island station. And because of the way Richard Etheridge conducted his business through regimented training, constant training, he would row the dory, the rowboat out 20 feet of water, throw a 50-pound bag of sand over, and his surfman had to over and over again dive down, get a 50-pound bag of sand, swim it back up to the boat. He's like, okay, go again. So he did drills. He did drills with the Lyle gun, the little miniature cannon that would fire a shot with line attached to it out to vessels. So his guys were trained, and in very short order, they became known as the best life-saving station along the coast. And then we get to October 11th, 1896. There's a 5-scale hurricane coming up the coast, and there's a 3-masted schooner, the E.S. Newman, that's making its way south. And the captain of that vessel, he has to decide: do I try to go around it, or do I try to beach the Newman and make our way inland? It's a good thing he decided to beach it and come in, because he would have never gotten out around this storm in time. So for hours they were trapped there in the wind and the rain. And the guy that was on watch at P Island, he thinks he sees the flare go up. So he goes and he grabs Richard Etheridge and the keeper, and they both are up there in the nest looking out, and they definitely see a second flare. So Richard Etheridge says to the guys, let's go. But none of their gear works, because it's a hurricane. It's a grade 5 hurricane. So they can't get the horses won't carry the dory out onto the surf. The wheels are getting stuck in the sand because it's being churned up so much. And the Lyle gun won't fire because, it's a hurricane. So Richard Etheridge looks at his team, and he grabs his 2 best swimmers. I think it was Lyles and Meakin. Anyways, he grabs his 2 best swimmers, ties a rope around them, and says, okay, here's what we're going to do, guys. I need you to swim out to this vessel that's out there, tie this rope off, and swim those people back. And that's what they did. They rescued the entire crew off the E.S. Newman, including the captain. The captain of that vessel was Richard Gardner, including his 3-year-old son.
What?
Rescues everybody, and then they got basically no recognition for it. And it, probably in post-Reconstruction South, it's probably because of their race. Then you go forward 100 years, and a couple of forces, a couple of grad students, a high school student, the guy that ended up being a 2-star admiral in the Coast Guard, but then was a commander. He actually also ended up being the chief usher at the White House.
That's cool.
Admiral Stephen Rochon, one of the most amazing officers I've ever met in my life. Those forces kind of came together and resulted in the crew of the P Island being awarded the Gold Life-Saving Medal posthumously. The highest life-saving medal you can get in the service. And they were awarded that. And many of their descendants were also in the Coast Guard and were there to receive the award, as well as the descendants of Captain Gardner, some of who wouldn't be alive if that 3-year-old hadn't been rescued.
Right.
And some of his descendants, one of them was a highly experienced Vietnam trauma nurse. Another one was a fire chief. So you think of these, proto coasties that out there saving lives, and then the lives they saved all these other lives, with the
Hmm.
nurse in Vietnam and the fire chief. That spirit of service to mankind continued off those efforts. So we made the film. It took us about 6 years. Admiral Roshan knew people who knew people who knew James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
Got the script in front of him. James Earl Jones said, "Hey, I would like to do this. I would." And we're like, "Well, he don't have the money to pay James Earl Jones." He's like, "I'll do it for free." We're
Oh,
like,
wow.
we're like, we are very interested in that price point. Um, and so then one day he calls. He goes, "Hey, I'm in DC. I'm performing on Golden Pond at the Kennedy Center. I've got next Wednesday open. If you can get a studio, we can record this." And he says, "But I can't do it for free because it's a union town. I have to charge you for it." And we're like, "Okay." He goes, "But it's scale, so it's $250 an hour." We're like, "Done." We
Wow.
were able to script that up in our budget, and we got 3 hours of James Earl Jones for $750, and it was phenomenal. And he was and when you say Mr. Earl Jones, he says you can call me James, but it is uh he's like, "Yeah, Earl is my middle name."
You're right. Ah.
So yeah, it was an amazing experience, and now I've got a movie poster here in the house that has my name on a movie poster with James Earl Jones's. So,
Uh-oh. I think I lost you. You're frozen up.
oh, you're still live on my end.
Okay. Okay. Uh-uh. So I just Googled it. Is it Rescue Men, the story of the Pea Island lifesavers, or
Oh,
different one?
so Rescue Men was a subsequent one that they used our footage to make. The difference between our
What?
movie and their movie, our movie celebrates these men as the heroes they were. Rescue Men focuses on their race more than their actions.
Oh, wow.
Um, but
So what's the title? What's the title of yours?
So if you Google the voice of Gladdened Hearts, Gladdened, the voice of Gladdened Hearts, and James Earl Jones, or you can put my name in. A couple of ones will come up, but it was an amazing experience. The history and we were able to uh, interview Herb Collins, who had started his Coast Guard service. One of his uncles was in the Pea Island crew, and so much of their family became affiliated with the Coast Guard. He started uh, young in the Coast Guard, and he ended up being a lieutenant. And he was the station keeper that closed down the Pea Island station in the early '50s.
Oh, man.
Uh, and after he retired, he went and got a pilot's license, and Herb Collins is he passed away a few years ago, but just one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. And as accomplished as he was, and as witty, and just such an amazingly good human being. Uh, just some of the people I met through this project, and the way that we were brought into the local community, and just it was amazing. And the service of the people on the Outer Banks in the Coast Guard throughout their family is both extensive and impressive, and just every now and then I'll start getting choked up talking about what we learned about those families, and how it carried forward, and how the service carried forward uh,
Mhm.
to the country and to the people.
I mean, that's just amazing.
Look,
I Googled it up, and if it's still printable on DVD or whatever they do that,
I,
I'm
I
gonna get
don't
one.
think it is, but I think I might be able to get you a copy. Let me see
Okay,
what I can do. But yeah, we had
cool.
one at Recruiting Command. They had a copy of it there. Russ used
Yeah.
to tease me about it every now and then. Like
That's
they would
awesome.
show up at my desk with a note that said, "Would you sign this?" You know, stuff like that. Oh, and one of the best parts is when we went to do the recreations.
Uh-huh.
Uh, we because we had to save up money because it was scrimp and save, pinching pennies everywhere that we could with the budget. We finally got enough, and we had a week's notice. This was literally my first week at the medical university. I
Oh
had to
man.
tell them. I had to show on my first day. I had to show up and say, "Hey, next week I'm going to need off, and for military orders. And oh, by the way, I'm not going to shave this week." Because the whole thing is we needed people that looked like they'd been out to sea for 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
And even though I was supposed to be and was the assistant director and one of the producers and was doing all that work, I was not supposed to be in front of the camera for anything.
Hmm.
But I was the only one that could grow a beard in 3 weeks, or excuse me, in a
Whoa.
week. I was the only one that could grow a beard in a week. So I ended up every time you see somebody pulled up out of the water, it's me shot from a different angle.
Okay.
Except for the 3-year-old. I don't have that kind of range.
Right.
Uh, but it's so I got no sleep pretty much for that week because I was both crew and uh talent talent.
Talent.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Uh,
and as I'm
yeah.
laying there on the beach after they dropped me in, pulling me in and out of the water,
That's
I
good.
really don't know how the Academy overlooked me that year, but you know
I,
they did.
we'll have to have them revisit that one. Uh,
Maybe
so
a lifetime
after,
achievement award or something like that.
I think that's you're deserving of that one. Um,
But you're
man.
lucky. I could do the full hour and a half just on P Island. Uh,
Oh, I know. I like an episode of a documentary. That's crazy to think. So you said Deepwater Horizon. What year was that? Oh,
2010,
2010. Okay, that's right. Yep. Were
April
you
April 2010.
so you did you work that quite a bit or?
So I got orders
Hmm.
and so by 2010 uh, I had been uh, I'd been commissioned for a few years. And so what do you do with a guy that was a medical corpsman that had made documentaries and taught physics and ultrasound at a medical university? What's the most obvious assignment for him as an ensign boarding officer doing law enforcement?
Gosh.
So so I'm assigned to MSU Savannah,
Uh-huh.
and my first day there, they said, "Here's your chief. You're going to be a boarding officer. Here's your team. Go do your go do your job." I'm like, I don't even know what you do here. I have no idea what this unit does. Uh, they're like, just go talk to your chief. Okay, so I go and talk to my chief, Jimmy Turner, amazing guy.
Yeah.
In his civilian job, he's a police officer, uh, as most of the crew was. Uh, they were law enforcement of some type. They were sheriff's deputies. They were patrol officers. They were parole officers. Uh, all kinds of different things. And so Chief looks at me and goes, "Okay, sir, first thing we're going to need to do is before we get you BO qual, we're going to get you BTM qual." I'm like, "What does BTM stand for?" He goes, "Okay, boarding team member. So the first thing we're going to need to do, when was the last time you qualified on the personal defense weapon?" And this is 2005. I said, well, Chief, I went to boot camp in 90. He says, "No, no, when was the last time you qualified?" I'm like, "Chief, I've been a corpsman since then. That was the last time I qualified on a weapon."
Oh my gosh.
And he's like, "Well, what do you do on the outside?" Knowing that, everybody else on my team is in law enforcement in some capacity in their civilian job. I said, I teach physics and ultrasound at a medical university. And he looks at me, and I'm just saying, Jimmy Turner, one of the most respectful, restrained individuals you've ever met, just super competent guy. But if his eyes were talking, his eyes would have said, "You're the most useless ensign I've ever seen." Uh, and that's saying something. Um, but by the time he and I got me trained and I was mentored by the chief and we worked with the team, our boarding team was responsible for half the Homeland Security boardings performed by MSU Savannah every month.
Wow.
Just it we figured out a pattern, we figured out a system how to work it so that we can maximize our efforts every weekend. And that was just as a reserve team that was coming in once a month. So that was one of the most touching moments of my career. Is I transferred out from Savannah, but I got the call from then Senior Chief Turner, and Senior Chief Turner said, "Lieutenant, I would like for you to come MC my retirement."
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
that to be asked as a junior officer to come back and MC a retirement for a well-respected, well-loved senior enlisted person, that touched me just so deeply,
Yeah.
because you just don't see that very often.
No, yeah, you don't. Well, you've touched a lot of people throughout the years. I'm actually working with one. I don't know if you remember him. I think he was probably a young MST at the time, Dustin Howell.
Yes, Dustin was down in Jacksonville,
Yep.
and he was working for my good friend Scott Blyken at the time. They were doing container inspections and military outload down
Uh-huh.
in Jacksonville, and I was working on one of my qualification pins, and I was given a week of permissive orders, and I went down to Jacksonville for the week and was able to work with Dustin and his team, and they trained me on how to do explosive handling inspections.
Oh, cool.
So I to hear you say that I touched Dustin in some way is uh, almost startling to me, because I got so much more from him. Him, as a junior enlisted guy at the time, being confident in his skill sets and able to train an old man officer on how to do that. I got so much more from that week I spent down there with him than
Yeah.
anything I would have thought I would have impressed upon him. So I'm frankly, I'm surprised he remembers me.
I told him I was interviewing you. He said, well, we had talked about you before. He just came from Cape May. He was a drill instructor for a few years up there, and now recruiting out of Charlotte. But yeah, he reminisced about you uh, pretty good
I
there for a minute.
Well, like I said, I am surprised he even remembered my name, other than a bumbling officer that he had to teach something to.
Oh man. So you've been all over the place. You've kind of done more Coast Guard missions than a lot of coasties do. Um,
Yeah,
by the sounds of it.
but that's how my civilian jobs were as well. Um,
Mhm.
I was a racquetball pro at a gym
Oh.
at one point, at a gym that was inside of a convention center. So when
Hmm.
people came in from out of town, they wanted to play somebody, and they didn't have somebody to play. I worked in the gym, and I would go play racquetball with them. So I did that. I did construction. I did framing. I did
Whoa.
roofing. I was a DJ in college at the radio station. Um, I did X-ray, and I did sonography, and then I did teaching. Um, I so back when I was a kid, not like I'm ancient or anything. Most
Yeah.
days I don't feel like that. Um, but I'm only I'm about 6 years younger than your dad,
Yeah.
because I know he was born in 62, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Um, So I, as a kid, my family would just talk about, he's a weird kid. He's a weird kid. And apparently, if you do well in school, they just kind of let you raw dog that ADD. Um, and and nobody, because nobody really knew what ADD was when I was a kid. It was just he's a weird kid. He gets attention stuff sometimes. Um, but if you're good in school, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I always felt different than everybody around me. Everybody does, but I'm like, man, I just don't get some of these things that people are saying and feeling, and jump forward about 30 something years, and we're at my wife's a teacher, and we're at holiday parties, and she's the inclusion teacher, and she works with the special ed kids, and the special ed instructors are coming to her classroom and work with her. And so the special ed teacher, we were sitting there talking at a party, and the special ed teachers would say, "How long has your husband had his diagnosis?" And I'm like, "What?" And they're
Right?
like, and my wife says, "Well, he doesn't know." And I'm like, I am standing right here. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm in this conversation, and they're like, "Oh, he doesn't know." I'm like, "No, what? What diagnosis we're talking?" So this actually happens like multiple times in multiple settings.
Yeah.
Special ed teachers or people that work with special ed students in some capacity saying, essentially, when did I get my diagnosis? So I'm like, well, now I have to figure this out. It turns out I have what used to be known as Asperger's. But
Hmm.
now it's autism spectrum disorder. You're on the spectrum. And so the more I read about it, the more so much in my life has made sense to me
Yes.
retroactively. So I say those things to say, again, as a kid, nobody's being diagnosed with any of that.
Hmm.
It was, it was like, if you're not getting in trouble, nobody really cares. Uh,
Right.
and I was a good kid. So, um, one of the things in my life is that I go hard on subjects
Hmm.
and immerse myself in them, and then as you know, us working together, I throw myself into whatever job I'm doing, and I try to do it to the best of my ability and learn everything I can about it so that I can work on process improvement with it. But when that interest stops, I'm like, move on. I'm ready to go do something else. And everybody talks to my wife. They're like, doesn't that scare you when he just radically turns left and makes job changes like that? And she's like, no. She's like, he's always going up. He might
Right.
go over to go up, but he's always going up, and he always makes sure that the family comes first and everybody in the family's taken care of. Now it's very much a team effort in this house,
Hmm.
but it's I'm not an anchor holding us back. I'm always pushing us forward. Um, So that but just as it turns out, so much of the inclination to do that comes from that mix of uh, spectrum disorder, ADD, that's in my
Yeah.
head. That's part of the reason why you see all these bookcases. There's whole shelves back there on coaching baseball. There's back there, I've taken up blacksmithing, uh, different musical interests, different historical interests. I'll
Mhm.
I do the deep dives for 6 months to a couple of years, and then okay, moving on. So
Yeah.
but that's been my history. My whole career is ready to move on. But I'm still being a product of my times. I'm still focused on the Coast Guard missions around um, the the triad of drug enforcement, environmental protection, and life saving. And I'm still wrapping my brain around the current missions where we're more of a junior DoD with ICE elements. It's still a little bit outside my wheelhouse, and I'm adjusting to some of that. But yeah,
Oh no.
I I've done a lot of the different missions, and things that aren't even missions that are just there. But most of what I do has always been in the support roles. I know I'm not one of our frontline operators for a whole lot of things. Yeah, I was a boarding officer for a few years, and I was a good boarding officer. I wasn't
Uh-huh.
great at it, but I find myself drawn more to the logistics and support elements that make it so that our operators can focus on the operations that the Coast Guard does that requires their full attention. Because when a reservist, for instance, comes on with their drill weekend and they're doing an armed boarding of a vessel, I don't want them tired because I didn't make sure that they were in a safe, secure, clean hotel room the night before. I don't want them unrested because of that. I don't
Mhm.
want them distracted because their pay was getting messed up. I don't want them distracted because there's these other things that have to be done that nobody's helped them do. So in my role as a reserve component manager as an RCM, I make sure that I know all those policies and I know all those steps and and use my education background to distill it down to easy to consume parts for them so that they could go safely be the highly professional operators that they are.
Yeah.
That's more where I come down. So that's where you see most of my career has been in support roles for that.
Where are you working for the Coast Guard currently?
I'm
What are you doing?
currently Lant 1-5, so I'm in charge of all the training and readiness for reservists east of the Rockies. I'm here in Portsmouth, Virginia, and also my team handles a lot of the active duty mobilizations and deployments, and we are the people that do most of the people responses to storms and such, making sure that that families, when they evacuate, are evacuated to safe places and that they're safe, so that the Coast Guard members can then go back and do their job and do the work.
That's awesome. So let's jump to weird questions. So,
Okay.
throughout your career or your personal life, have you ever experienced anything that you can't explain?
Other than people in general, nothing like uh, nothing really supernatural or mysterious. Uh,
Mhm.
I still find people mystifying to this day. I it's constantly uh, I keep saying I'm not going to be surprised today, and then people find a way to surprise me. Um, but yeah, nothing. In which what's funny is I'm primed person for it. My dad used to read me The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings as a
Oh,
kid, so fantasy and supernatural type stuff is and I'm still an avid D&D player, and so I look for things like that in my world, but it on the other side, I'm a science major,
right.
so I always maybe I'm looking for the rational explanations as well, but I've really never seen anything that I can't at least come up with some rational scientific argument for.
Yeah. So, what is your you turned me on to Elliot Bronson. Let's go music. Elliot with one L. Elliot Bronson. I
Elliot with
just
one
listened
L.
to you. Yep. Um,
He's in the studio making a new album right now.
no way.
Yep, I was chatting with him last week. Uh, Unfortunately, he and I were talking about the passing of Todd Snyder,
Hmm.
uh, a true legend in the Americana music scene, a storyteller,
Yes.
uh, obviously a man that has had his personal troubles in the past, but just an amazing storyteller. And so Elliot and I were commiserating about the loss of Todd Snyder, but he's in the studio. He just successfully ran a Kickstarter campaign. It just closed a couple of days ago for the
Oh,
new
cool.
album. So watch for that. But yes,
I will.
Elliot, somebody that I caught at a living room show back in, geez, I want to say 2017, 2018. I think it was December of 2018. I first met Elliot, and we we corresponded a little bit. I've hosted him for a couple of house concerts. He's been on tour a few times. Amazing singer songwriter. But
Yeah.
I kind of took over the question when you were only halfway done with it. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine. I always I caught up with him on his COVID shows on Facebook. He would do COVID shows.
He still does them pretty
He
often
does.
on Wednesday night. Yeah, he's still doing them on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, those are super cool. What a cool idea that is that he's following through with. Um, I'm working on music as well. Um, I just am very hesitant to put it out um, because I don't want people to hear my singing voice. I'm not a very um, public person in that sense, I guess.
Well,
But along this podcast, along with that, I've kind of regained a passion for, um, especially the music. So
yeah,
when that
so
comes out, could you lend me an honest ear?
I, I 100%, you know that having been a DJ before, and like I said, I, it's always a joke. People I know that are walking down the street and I see a band set up and there's a banjo, a stand-up bass, and or a, what is it with the 10 strings, uh, small stringed, anyway, there's
Oh,
instruments and,
dobro, like a
yeah, like a dobro. Uh,
yeah.
but if, mandolin, mandolin is what I
Oh,
was thinking of.
mandolin.
Yeah.
Okay.
That if I walk by and I see those set up on a stage, you can just plan on, I'm like, yep, I'm going to give them a shot.
I love Americana as well, and one of the bands from actually the town here that I live in are, I don't know if you've heard of them, the Avett Brothers.
Oh yeah.
Yep. They're like right up the road from me. But
Oh,
I've only been to one of their concerts back in the early 2010s, and it was just an absolute awesome show.
oh, I
Awesome show.
bet. I bet. Yeah. No, I love the Avett Brothers. I got a playlist I'm going to send you then if you like Americana. And
Yeah,
have
I
you
would
ever
love it.
listened to Todd Snyder before?
Uh, I had heard of a couple of his songs, but I like to, similar to you with subjects, I'll dive into an artist and just listen to their entire discography. So,
Same.
yeah.
So if you start listening to Todd at any point, he has the version of his albums are like on iTunes, but he also has Purple Room versions. I
Oh,
recommend listening to the original first. The Purple Room is all the same songs, but recorded acoustic, stripped down with the stories behind them as well. So, but
oh,
it's kind of nice to know the song and then to hear the stripped down version. Um, but
that's
he
so
was
neat.
such a phenomenally talented man that obviously had his demons.
Yeah.
But I did my deep dive on Todd the past couple of weeks. I found out he had written a book um, back in 2014. Never met a story I didn't like.
Mm,
Uh, Subtitled "Mostly True Tall Tales." That was kind of an autobiography type thing, but it was that man had no illusions about himself. He knew who he was, and he knew what
mm.
his demons were, and just the way he approached people with a smile and with grace every day, despite what he was going through. Uh, you hope people can be that kind and gracious
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not always that way. That is something that I'm constantly working on in myself is more grace and kindness.
Hmm.
It, but as you remember, it's like my emails. I often have to get people to proof my emails because there's apparently tone that I never intended, from my spectrum stuff. I just think I'm just speaking because if I read my emails to somebody, they're like,
Yeah.
that is not at all how I heard it in my head.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, but apparently I write with tone that is not intended. Because when I say the exact same things and they hear it the way I'm saying it, they're like, that's not at all how I heard it. You're not nearly as much of a monster as I thought.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I I feel you. I feel you on that.
but yeah, no, I got a playlist for you that I'll send to you, and you can see if anything sparks your interest in there.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to
And I'll tell
listen to
Elliot
it.
you said hello.
Yeah. I'll I need to keep an eye on his new album coming out. Does he have a
Hey,
release date yet? Or
not yet. I mean, they're
okay.
literally still in the studio.
Oh,
But
he's in it.
another album coming out here soon. If you like Elliot, I recommend a guy named Caleb Caudle. He's from your neck of the woods down there,
Okay.
kind of some Western North Carolina. Um, just I met. And actually, what's funny is that same show in 2010 that I met Elliot at. Uh, they Caleb was also performing in that living room that night.
No
And
way.
actually, he and Caleb were making their way up in, I think they were in Elliot's car or Caleb's car one. It was just the two of them on a skateboard driving up the coast, playing different places. Very different artists, but also singer songwriter. And you can, if you can't play Caleb's music and hear the North Carolina in it, you may not be listening.
Right.
Uh, so yeah, I would, and Caleb's got a new album coming out as well.
Cool. I love
So
how artists of a similar or same genre can be different. I think that's a big missing link in popular music right now is individuality and in their own sound. You can have influences, right? But be your own sound. Um, and I think that's what Elliot and I'm about to listen to Caleb after we get off here.
yeah,
They do
yeah,
that.
yeah. Caleb is he's amazingly talented as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Any so you're a book person, obviously. Do you watch any film from your theater days?
Oh, well, you know, I mostly speak in music lyric and movie taglines. Uh,
Okay.
so yeah, I I mean, I'm not a highbrow film guy by any
Right.
stretch. I mean, for instance, I you know, when somebody says, "What's the most quotable movie to you?" I'm like, bar none, Talladega Nights.
That's true.
Talladega Nights, one of the funniest movies I've ever seen in my life. We know I'm big into science fiction, uh,
Yep.
and I will watch anything with Jimmy Stewart in it at a drop of a hat, and I have probably seen most all of his stuff in the double digits realm. Jimmy Stewart, one of my acting heroes.
Yeah. That's
Just
awesome.
you know, you say you know they're actors, they're playing parts, but my God, you can't play such a decent human being that many times and be wrong. It's kind of like back in 2023, I met Dale Murphy, and I will just say this: I got to spend the day with Dale Murphy through the Dale Murphy experience. The thing I got is it was my promotion gift to me. They said, "How much did that cost?" I said, "We're never going to ask that question again." Um, but when they say don't meet your heroes, if your hero is Dale Murphy, by all means meet him. He is the most Dale Murphy person you've ever met. Everything you think Dale Murphy is, as far as being a decent, kind, warm individual, none of that is fake. None of that is artifice. That is him to his core. He was just Amazing man, and a awesome baseball player. I'm really hoping on Sunday that the committee actually gets him into the Hall of Fame. I'm in protest with the Baseball Hall of Fame until they get Dale Murphy in there.
Yeah.
I won't tell you about the picture I took this summer when I was on tour with me outside the Hall of Fame, maybe digitally indicating my disfavor with them, uh, and I mean with my finger. Uh, it's a travesty that he's not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But and he and I were talking during that day one time, and I said, "Hey, damn, do you realize that tomorrow will be the 30th anniversary of the last Major League Baseball game that you played in?" And he's like, "What? Because really?" I'm like, "Yeah, yep, May 30th, 1993." And he looked at me and goes, "You may know more about my career than I do." But then later on, when we were in kind of a group session, he was telling everybody, he said, "Yep, tomorrow will be 30 years since my last major league game." Then he looked over at me and he gave me a long, slow wink.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
So yeah,
Oh.
my influence is sitting on the floor watching Braves games because where I grew up on that farm, we
Hmm.
only got three channels, and one of them was not ABC, but it was
Oh.
WTBS because it was broadcast off the top of Stone Mountain directly to us. And so growing up watching Braves games, and that's how I became a good student. Was Ted Turner when he owned the Braves? If
Hmm.
you got all A's, he would give you three pairs of tickets to the Braves games for free. And
Oh,
my
cool.
grandfather told me that if I got those tickets, he would take me into the city and we'd go to Braves games. So, and then I told Dale that story. I said, you and Ted Turner were why I decided to become a good student. It was I wanted
That's
those Braves
cool.
tickets.
Yeah, that's so
So,
cool.
so yeah. Anything with Jimmy Stewart, science fiction, love Star Wars.
Yeah.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is probably my favorite book. But then I have
Yeah.
deeper moments where I think about things like the Charge of the Light Brigade, the poem by Tennyson, and I'm like, and some people take different lessons from that poem, and some people it's the heroic charging into what was obviously going to be a slaughter. Uh, but for me, as a logistician, I'm like, man, if somebody had just communicated, they would have had to make that waste. To me, that's that lesson of the there's three things I live by at work, and I tell them I said communication, role
Hmm.
clarity, and no fear. You got to communicate, you got to do it often, you have to be clear, and you have to make sure it's two-way. Don't
Yeah.
hoard information. Role clarity, know what your job is, know what you do that makes the machine run. Do that. Don't do other people's jobs unless they ask you for support or you see they need assistance, but you work with them. You just don't step in and start doing somebody else's job.
Yeah.
And then no fear. If you're doing the right thing the right way for the right reasons, you shouldn't ever be scared to do it. You shouldn't be scared to speak truth to power. And I
That.
currently work with people that I feel like they violate all three of those on a daily basis, and it's extremely frustrating to me. But, so that's what I get from things like Charge of the Light Brigade. So I'm not nearly as superficial as my interests sound, uh,
Yeah.
but it's
That's deep. That is a deep insight.
when you start to get old, you start thinking about your legacy a little bit.
You do. Yep. And that leads into the next topic is your legacy, for your children, for your family, for your people who have worked with you.
My legacy. I hope it is that you still do the right thing even when it's not easy.
Mm,
And it rarely is. If it's truly the right thing, it's probably not going to be easy, and you're probably going to pay a price for doing it. Um, but don't be afraid.
yeah.
We raise these kids with the Coast Guard core values, which, ironically, just for the record, I've been in the Coast Guard longer than it had adopted those three core values. Uh, but honor, respect, and devotion to duty, and all things you do. Uh,
Yeah.
it's an important tenet in this family, and they've seen me um, struggle at time with the repercussions of my actions. I'm not always the most popular person in the room. Uh, People like me better when I'm on their team.
Mhm.
Everybody needs a bulldog, I guess, but it's. I just hope the legacy of take care of your people, but you know don't make cover-ups.
Yeah,
I guess that's my legacy is stand for what you stand for and mean it, and then just work the rest of your life around you know go in with your eyes wide open, but do the right thing, and where it lands, it lands.
yeah, that's great. Um, I was scrolling through Facebook the other day and a photo. I don't know what the algorithm of Facebook is. I'm not a social media person. I just use it to keep up with people and do this. Um, but a photo of you with your one of your children as a baby and just the smile on your face, I was like, man, that's I know you were a great leader. Um,
Oh, that's kind.
when I worked with and under you. I'm not. Did I work under you at some point? I think I did. Yeah,
Peripherally,
yeah.
peripherally,
For officer panels and things like getting
right?
those set up, like the rooms. But I knew you in that aspect, and then I know you're a great family man. You're a great father. So yeah, you're just from me to you. Um, that's noticed. That's taken to heart. Yeah,
Well, thank you. Yeah, that was, I've got the T-shirt that says, "Look, if I said I'll do it, I'll do it. There's no reason to remind me every 6 months." Um, it's there's a lot of projects in my life that are still unfinished that took a long time, but it was simply always, hey, do I go coach this baseball team or do I work on this? Well,
exactly.
it's
Yeah,
always going to be this, and
always.
regardless, and I've been deployed, obviously several times, but if there was ever any way, I was at every kid's event. I got a basketball high school letter from Woodson High School because for 8 years I kept the book for a Woodson High School basketball team, whether it be the girls or boys team, all through there. So they ended up giving me a letter for my service to the basketball teams at Woodson High School with the kids. I don't even like basketball,
Yeah,
but it was my kids. My kids love basketball, so
that's cool.
that's that was what Shay and I have always said is that we our goal was to raise decent human beings that were going to be out there doing more good in the world than we were able to accomplish, and to be better at it than we were. And
Mhm.
if that was our measuring stick, I would say that we've more than accomplished that goal. Uh, I feel like my kids are just amazing human beings, and both kind and empathic and good to people,
Mhm.
and as well as being productive and successful in their own rights. But uh, there's too much in the world right now where people are just looking out for number one, uh,
Oh yeah.
and I don't. I feel like that's not what I put out in the world with the legacy with my kids. And if my legacy is my kids, then I've more than made an impact because they are two phenomenal human beings, and my wife and I, Jay and I, just couldn't be more proud of both of them. So.
That's amazing. Cool. Any parting thoughts? Oh no, you disappeared when I said that. There you go.
Oh,
Any parting thoughts?
again, taking a superficial thing and trying to look deeper into it.
Yeah.
It's I think Bill and Ted said it best. Just everybody think about it. Go out there and be excellent to each other.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing that can be lost by being kind. As I
It's
said,
true.
I have to work on that every day. Um,
We all do.
but
We all do, especially
there's,
with our own families.
yes, there's just a lack of kindness in the world right now. And,
Yeah.
I'm not going to get political or anything like that, but we
Huge,
just
huge
need,
lack of kindness.
we just,
Yeah.
and I guess those three things,
Yeah.
communicate, have your role clarity, and don't have fear. Go out there and be the superhero that you are.
Yep. Just be yourself, People are
Well,
gonna
there's some people that I wouldn't give that
like
advice
that.
to. Uh,
Yeah. Right.
go find somebody better and be that person. No, but
Right.
everybody has their own struggles, but everybody has something to contribute. Um, and we just need to see that and try to work with that as much as possible. And
Sure.
I don't want it to be as many years between when we talk as it has been this
Yes.
time. Uh,
Same.
you're
Yeah.
you're amazing, Father. I watched you with Dawson, and I haven't gotten to see you with the younger one. Uh,
We're busy building Legos, and he puts on concerts. He's a musical person like I am, so we're it's funny. Um we're both creative people. My wife was a theater major at UNC Charlotte. Um I later on in the Coast Guard got a business degree, but I've always been a creative musical person, and we birthed two very logical children. We always joke that both of them can be lawyers, just the way they smooth talk their way into getting things or get in their way. But they also have that creativity in them, so that's pretty cool that we could impart that. But with with my oldest, he's very mathematical. Like he's very good at mathematics. My youngest is on his way to being that way as well, and I know I am not. So I'm busting out the calculator um, while they're just doing the computations on paper in their heads. But
yeah, yeah,
it's
both
it's
my
cool to
kids were
have.
good at the science and math. No
Uh-huh.
interest in it. No interest in it. And
Mm,
medical, nope. Nobody in my family is interested in medical stuff. It's like when
yeah.
when the kids would get sick when they were younger, I would be the one to take off. Shay's like, rub some dirt on it. Let's go. I'm like,
Really?
it's pneumonia. Rub some dirt on
Right.
it. Uh,
Yeah.
so
Uh,
it's having, and I think being a corpsman really allowed me to develop more empathy than my natural inclinations would be on my own. Particularly,
that makes sense.
again with the spectrum stuff.
Yeah.
Connecting to other humans is something that I constantly work at because I want to be better at that and not be the
Yeah.
weird kid. So
Oh yeah. I could. I don't know if I'm on the spectrum or whatever, but I with music I pigeonhole myself. I'm a little. I get obsessed with it, and I could disappear for hours working
yes,
on a song. Um, it sucks me in, and then I'm in my own world, and literally time literally flies when I'm doing it. So I get that
yeah.
dedication to subjects for sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
one quick funny Elliot story.
Yeah.
So, have you ever heard of Michelle Malone?
No.
She, uh, I first discovered her in around 1986.
Okay.
She's a guitarist from Atlanta and singer. She is amazing. Uh, I had huge crush on her back in the 80s and 90s. Uh, and now she's married to this wonderful woman that's an artist in her own right. But phenomenal singer-songwriter. She was voted best blues guitarist in Atlanta multiple years running. Uh, Still performing and recording. She's amazing, and she had an album that came out a couple of years ago, and there was a song on it. And I called Elliot, and I said, "Hey, Elliot, there's this new song on Michelle's album. I think I can totally hear your voice in it. I think you need to play this song on your next live stream show. I think you need to
Hmm.
work on this one." And he's like, it's just pause, and pause in the texting, and then he goes, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm like, "No, no, I totally hear this with your sound." And he's like, "Eric, I wrote that song."
That's
And I'm like,
wild.
"What?" Because I was just playing it off my phone. I hadn't actually gotten my album because I think I've got that album on vinyl and the CD as well. But I was
Yeah.
just playing it, so I didn't get to see liner notes or anything. And I'm like, "What?" He
Gosh,
says, "Yes, I wrote that song with Michelle." And
that's
I was
so cool.
cracking up. And he's like,
Oh,
"Are you?" He's like, "You're just yanking my chain, right?" I'm like, "No, no. I totally." As soon as I heard that song, I'm like, "I hear Elliot in this song."
that's wild. Well, that goes to show if you know the artist and their influence,
And,
that's crazy. Better than
and
Ezra. They're from New Orleans, aren't they?
oh yes, amazing band,
Love them.
amazing band. How
Yep.
about Cowboy Mouth from New Orleans? You played much of
Yep.
them?
Cowboy Mouth. Yes.
So
Yep.
so Cowboy Mouth is probably the closest I ever come to a religious experience. A Cowboy Mouth show. Have you ever seen
Uh
them
huh.
live?
On YouTube.
I Even if you don't know a single song of theirs, a Cowboy Mouth's live performance is something everybody should see. It is the most cathartic event because he will not allow you to go away unentertained.
Oh wow.
He just he he won't do it. You will be entertained and you will be involved in the show. He will accept nothing less from the audience. Uh, and it's almost like screen therapy. Uh,
Yeah.
I I I have never felt more relaxed than after a Cowboy Mouth show, and just getting all of the negative and all the bad parts of the day out of your body.
Uh
Cowboy
huh.
Mouth show, because they're not my favorite band by any stretch. I love them,
Right.
but the best live show I've ever been to.
That's so cool. So I think we have found our meeting spot. We will meet at some kind of show. Let's do that.
100%. I will work on
Yeah.
that.
All right. You tell me when and where to
Okay.
be there. I'll be there. Yep.
Aye, aye. I'll
So
find something.
who's your favorite band at the moment?
Driving and crying.
Driving and Crying?
DRIVIN apostrophe N apostrophe CRYIN apostrophe. Driving and
Okay.
crying.
Cool.
Lead singer is Kevin Kinney, KEVN, no I. Uh, Back in his punk rock days, he wanted to change his name like everybody else did, but he didn't know what to change it to, so he took the I out of his name. Uh,
Oh.
yeah.
Hey,
If
that's cool.
I mean, if you go to uh, second album, think about 1986, Whisper Tames the Lion. I think it's track 9,
Mm-hmm.
but it's called Check Your Tears at the Door. I've said everywhere that is the song that needs to play at my wake.
Oh wow.
Yep.
That's
Uh,
That hits hard.
I, I, it's just all about, hey, don't cry for me. I'm good.
Yeah,
You come here, you get it out, then you check your tears at the door and move on with your life.
man.
And it just
Yeah.
hits. And then his friend's song, and Kevin has influenced so many people. And I just recently learned through that deep dive that Todd Snyder and Kevin were such great friends.
Wow.
But yeah, Driving and Crying by far my favorite band ever. And their
Cool.
sound is they've got hard rocking driving songs, and then they got
Hmm.
slow country crying songs. That's what
Oh
one of
wow.
the reasons why they had such a hard time making an impact was back in the day when it mattered. Nobody could figure out what genre of music they were.
Yeah. Yes. That's so true. Still true
So,
today. Yeah. Um, I'm struggling with the same thing right now. Um, but I'm working
but
there.
genre doesn't matter as much anymore.
It doesn't. No, it really doesn't. I think, especially, well, I think it matters for people who are pushed to the top and want to be known. Um, and that's their goal, is to be not famous, but want to be known, is stick to a
But
genre. But
I think we're both kind of more interested in the people that want to express their truth through their music.
yes, yeah, yep, yeah, exactly. So cool. Let's do it. Let's meet up at a concert, even if it's a house
Let's do
concert.
it.
I'm down. Yeah,
Hey, if I have to
yeah.
host it, we can even do that.
Oh, cool. Heck yeah.
So we got a natural stage there in our kitchen living room.
Uh huh. Very
So
nice.
well, cool.
Very
Well, hey,
nice.
I got to bounce and get to my lesson with Pete. Uh,
Alrighty. Well, thanks for
so
talking with me. And, I
thanks for
appreciate you
catching up.
more than you know. And I will
Oh,
splice this together as good as I can. And if anything,
if
we'll have another phone call down
sounds
the
good.
line.
If I was going to say, if worst comes to worst, we do it all again.
Yep. Yep. And Portsmouth is only a 5 hour trip for me. So,
I drive that far for baseball games all the time. I've been
oh,
hitting all the
really?
minor league baseball teams in the area.
Cool. Cool.
So,
Well, thanks, Eric. I
but I
love you,
got
brother.
love you, Brandon. You take care, okay, man?
You too. You too.
Okay,
I'll talk with you soon.
sounds good. Bye.
All right. Bye.